Yeah. So anyway, that was everybody. Hi. Week
I
7.
love that. Hi.
I got to remember it's not the screen, it's the camera.
That's right.
But Danny and I talking about that specifically is that how that battlefield in the mind on the day 4 of week 7. How do you just constantly keep your mind on those things when there's so much outside influence in the world today? You know, and the conversations are
I mean, I
going.
do know, but it's purposeful. It's work. All right, we're jumping into the conversation because we were mid-conversation.
Yeah, right.
All right. So
Believe it or not, we do live Jesus a little bit sometimes outside of this podcast.
Outside of it,
sometimes.
Yes, always.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So here we go.
Yeah.
We are week 7 of the God experiment. Yeah, we're talking about faith or fear.
Yep.
So let's just start with the basic, the general question here on fueling faith versus fear. You'd made the comment saying, I don't think I'm that fearful in general. Do you think some people just wrestle with fear more often? Other people are like, and would you even say that you're more faith-filled, or you're just say, I'm just not fearful? Which that doesn't mean, just because you don't operate in fear doesn't mean that you're full of faith. Just means that you may not be a fearful person.
Yeah. I think I have to constantly concentrate on what God's promises are. Right?
Okay, sure.
And so I'll sometimes think, okay, Lord, if you don't want me to walk forward, shut the door, and I won't blast through it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But that's faith. That's because you're putting your faith in Him and asking Him to I don't know, intersect your life and stop something.
Yeah. And a lot of times He'll tell me, like I believe He told me, like if you had an overarching, like calling or title or whatever, it's always been take ground. It's always just been take ground.
Yeah.
And so if it has to do with taking ground,
then you're not fearful of it because you feel like it's part of your assignment.
It's part of my assignment.
Yeah.
That's what I've been called to do.
Yeah. So this week I was really talking about there are certain things that fuel fear or fuel faith in our lives. And I used the illustration of a bonfire at the beginning and just starting fires in general. And like my kids always want to have bonfires in the summertime. It's like as it gets warmer, they just always want to do that. But just recognizing, hey, sometimes it rains, the wood's all wet, you can't burn it. And so fuel matters. And I was just talking about there are certain things that fuel either naturally we lean into faith, or we find ourselves fueling fear. So day 1, I talked about these crucible moments, and I didn't come up with those. I borrowed them from Andy Stanley's church down in. I heard him first talk about this idea of crucible moments. Here's the value of it: is crucible moments land into these 4 categories: tragic moments.
Can you give the definition of crucible to most people that don't know what crucible means?
Well, crucible is just it's a pinnacle moment. It's a critical moment. Yeah. But he talks about 4 but they're inflection moments where you can really go one way or you can really go the other. And so they talked about these 4 areas of crucible moments: tragic moments, celebration moments, transition or change moments, and then challenge moments or challenging moments. So tragic moments are obviously tragic. You lose your job. You're all of a sudden a bad diagnosis, a loved one dies, financial crisis. Those are tragic moments. Celebration moments are great. Well, like a baby's born, someone gets married, you move into a new house, you get a new job. What's crazy is both of those things, while they seem like opposite ends of the spectrum, they're both invitation moments to either step into fuel or to fuel either faith or fear. Transition moments or change moments, so a new home, new job, new schools, new all that. And then challenging moments, which is just like it could be you have more responsibility at work, or you're being asked to coach your kid's sports team or something like that for the first time. It's just a new challenge. So all those are like, seems like a lot of different categories. And yet what I think most people don't do is they head into these moments never thinking about, I don't know, how am I posturing my heart during this? Or, this is a moment I should be I should be aware of what I'm carrying right now or how I'm going to engage this. Because I think most people, like, let's say you have the sudden diagnosis. well, on the day that happens, most people aren't going, am I fueling my heart with fear or faith? They're just like, they respond. And this is where I just think if you can in advance go, oh, crucible moments are always an opportunity. It's just beneficial.
Yeah.
To think one way or the other, to be purposeful. Just go like, oh, this is an opportunity. My faith is going to grow, or I could spiral in fear in all of those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've experienced that.
I don't know. And I told you before we started this week was a little tougher for me than last week. Last week was, and I think that's normal. They're not all going to be the same. And I just think in my life, the way I channel my life or think life, like we talked about a little earlier before we started, what my calling is, those things come up and all they are little distractions, positive or negative, but they don't change the direction I'm going.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that maybe I'm normal or maybe I'm abnormal, right? But I think to myself,
we all know you're abnormal.
well, I'm a little messed up for sure. But I think that when great things happen, that's great. It doesn't take me any different than the way I'm going. But if it's a big negative, I mean, I look to the side while I'm going, but I know somehow God's got this, going on. So it might just be my age or how long I've walked with the Lord.
Yeah.
That I'm, it's a little distraction, but it never stops the direction.
Yeah.
Because I always have, like I said, I talk about dealerships like whack-a-mole. This one's got a problem, that one's got a problem, that one's got a problem. These are all good, but I think there's so many of those that go on that in my life, even personally, those are things that are going on, but they're just, they might be big to somebody else, but I don't know.
I think you actually just hit the nail on the head in a unique area where you said it might just be my age, but it's your experience. It's life experience. So think about this. I don't know. Maybe you've always, when you were in your 30s, you operated with not the level of fear maybe that most people engage in, but I do think so much of it is life experience and age that, I don't know. Tell me if this is true for you, but it is for me. Things that I used to get like freaked out about, I'm like, it'll all work out. Like that's not anything. Like we've been trying to hire some people for some certain roles, and it's interesting working with young people who are, and they just what the decisions they're trying to make is, I don't know. I find it funny as I'm listening to them process all this stuff, and I'm like, that'll all work out. Don't even worry about it.
I think you're right, and I think you're right. It is probably is age, and the amount of faith you have.
Yeah,
as you've seen God in your life, and that would be something I would tell anybody when you start the journey with the Lord.
Yeah, in
the beginning, you're being buffeted by waves, and you're getting tossed to and fro.
Yeah, right.
Like it talks about in the scriptures. But in life, once you know that, and
when He carried you through one storm,
yeah. It's almost like you're gonna get to the other side of it. It is gonna work out. This is just a wave. It might be a big wave.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I
was gonna say once He's carried you through enough storms, you just kind of go, it's another storm.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And you see different. I just had a friend of mine just going through cancer, and we were talking about it yesterday.
Yep.
And his faith, if this had happened to him 10 years earlier, it probably would have been like he would have quit his job. He would have just like completely derailed, and he would have just, just focused on that.
Yep.
But in this case, he just kept doing what he was doing, loved his wife probably a little bit more, loved his family a little bit more, and it was just something they had to get through.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's something that really is important, and as you realize how critical your faith in God is.
Yeah. That's good. So in light of all of this, here's some things to be aware of that will either fuel your heart, though, toward faith or maybe away from it, maybe toward fear. So I'm going to go a little out of order here, but good. I think this, you were landing on, you came around to day 4.
Yeah.
But I think day 4, where it's all about, so the title is the fuel of honor and attention. So what do you give your attention to will start to fuel faith or fear. So, and I talk about, are you watching the news, and is that fueling faith, or is it fueling your fear? magazines that you read, books that you read, articles you read, people that you listen to, music that you listen to, all that kind of shapes. We're giving our attention. Like, what am I paying attention to that's feeding into my
Isn't that crazy when you think about that too?
Yeah. But it's
human. It's what goes on. And I think the God of the air, I think that the media knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't come on and say, hey, we really don't have anything negative to talk about. Let's talk about some positives. They don't do it. They're going to find the most negative thing they can talk about.
Yeah.
And depending on which way they slant,
yeah,
they just fuel that fear,
Yeah.
and it makes people want to watch the news more.
yeah,
And they believe whatever they're told, that's true because it was on CNN or it was on Fox or it was on MSN or it was on.
Right.
And they believe that.
And by the way, it doesn't matter which network you watch, because all of them news as a whole operates out of fear.
Without a doubt.
That's what, the premise of news is stir fear.
Yeah.
Because fear gets you to pay more attention to them.
And then the more people that pay attention, the more advertisers they get.
Yeah.
And the more revenue they get.
Yeah, and then they can
you
talk.
Can't just sit there and talk about good things. Nobody wants to see that. What else is going on? What's really going on? Oh, this is going on. That must be true.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah. But all of that stirs is all playing on, fear at the core. Yeah. So, I made the statement, and it's not a new statement, garbage in, garbage out, that if you're consuming all this garbage, it will probably fuel the fear thing, not faith in your life. And so what do you do? Because we were just talking about it at the beginning. It's like we're surrounded by a lot of garbage, actually. Now, I made this comment. This was this past week. I was talking about actually the mind and marinating the mind in truth and all that. Just my message happened to align with this. But I talked about this idea of, all right, we got 24 hours in your day. Let's assume 8 hours of it are sleep. I know I'm being really generous because most people don't get that much.
Yes.
But I'm going to grant you 8 hours of sleep. Okay, 8 hours at work, and you can't control the environment there. That's the one place. Because there's a ton of people who would be like, well, I can't control everything I'm hearing during the day. Okay, so a third of your day you really can't control. Your coworkers, the music that's played at work, the language, all that. However, it still leaves you with another 8 hours. 8 hours that you're 100% in charge of, that you can determine what you're going to put in. And my argument even this past weekend was, I just think most of us just are completely apathetic to the 8 hours we control of our mind, of what we're putting in.
Yeah.
And so we find ourselves scrolling social media, and we know statistically what social media produces: anxiety, depression, jealousy, comparison, lust, all this stuff. Yeah. It's just, this is what it produces.
Right.
And yet we choose to scroll it as the algorithms are working to always continue to get us to continue to stare. And we consume more of that, as opposed to...
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It knows what you looked at, therefore it will bring more of that into your mind.
That's right. To get you to look at more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you go to the verse that I had read, or that I had highlighted that day, of whatever's pure, true and noble and right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy, think about such things. Do we really, in our 8 hours that we get to control, do we try to create the atmosphere where our mind is really saturated in those things? And how do you do that? I just think most of us are super lazy in that area. Most Christians are too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm a little different, right? I mean, what I do in most of my spare time, right, if I come home, really isn't watching the news. If I do, I watch all of it. I will not watch one.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I want to hear all ends of it. And I know that 80% of it's not true.
Yeah, right.
That it's all sensationalized, and it's something, and even the people speaking it got it from Associated Press, and they're putting it together, and they're sending out to different medias. So people are speaking it and don't even know if they believe it. They're just told what to say.
Yeah, right.
And you say, well, why? Because they're writing exciting stories to get people's attention. So, I mean, I kind of watch it all. I can hear the basics of it. But, for me, I hate to tell everybody this, but I sit in the bathtub and I have
and you read a book.
Multiples of books.
Yeah.
Because I can't concentrate that long. I'll read a chapter of this, right? And I'll read a chapter of something faith-filled that I may read, my devotionals, and then sometimes a fiction book, that I'm reading, like I'm reading one right now, and just try to really channel into a few of those different things, but not much garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the mind still can go that way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But that's why it's just so, I mean, if I could I challenged people this week at church, hey, really, what's the inventory you need to take on your mind? What do you need to get rid of? I talked about even in my own life, last year when I was on sabbatical, I got rid of social media. And then at the end of the summer, and I got rid of it because I just wanted to unplug for the summer. But then at the end of the summer, I went back onto it. And immediately I found myself discouraged all the time. Mostly because it's people that I love. And I'm like, oh, don't post that picture. Oh, don't post that. Don't share that story. Oh, don't make that comment.
Don't put those pictures on there that are ridiculous.
But then when I'm like,
nobody cares.
And as their pastor, I'm like, oh, do I have to shepherd this moment? And I'd be like, I could literally just spend 24 hours a day chasing, shepherding people's bad moves on social media. And I was so overwhelmed and so depressed, honestly, and frustrated by it that I was just like, I got to get off of it.
Did you ever notice that some will go off into depressive things that they've experienced in their lives? Or they're sad because of this or sad because of that. And other people jump on board and they'll go, oh, we're so sorry. Yeah, stay strong, whatever. And it gets them attention.
Yeah.
So then they wallow in the negativity.
Yeah.
And then other people will show things out on the social media that maybe is a highlight of something.
Right.
And they'll show it over and over and make it look happy and flowery and make it look prideful and whatever. And you go, that's not true either. That's not real life. So how do you deal in just...
Well, and that's social media is essentially, it is the highs and lows of life. That's how most people operate in it. Yeah. It's either the highlight reel or it's the low light reel.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Or it's the angry reel.
So people are trying to raise up the downs. Your friends are, and then people that are looking at you at the highlight, they're really saying these things, but they want to bring you down. Yeah. So why even? I don't know.
So anyhow,
interesting.
My whole statement though was just cut it out because I've basically entirely eliminated it. I was on a Zoom call today with about a dozen business leaders, and we were talking about social media because a lot of them get coaching that, hey, we've got to keep our social media presence, our influence, all this stuff as they're CEOs of companies and things like that. But most all of them are like, I'm just I'm wrecked by it. Like it's so bad for me. And yet, their HR or their marketing departments, like, oh, you got to keep producing some content and all this. But they're all depressed and frustrated with it. And I was just, we were talking it through. I'm like, oh, there's this balance of, produce something maybe for the organization, but man, for you personally, if it's depressing, then just cut it out. Yeah. And because once again, I think it fuels a lot of the garbage.
Yeah, I think if you could read this every single day and say that scripture, Philippians 4:8. Right?
Yeah. Whatever is pure, whatever.
Finally, I mean, when it says finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think about those things.
Yep.
I mean, that's a pretty good send-off, right? Mm-hmm. Finally.
Yeah.
This is what I recommend.
Yep.
And it hasn't changed in 2,000 years.
That's right.
It still works.
That's right. Still saturate your mind in those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say I don't always do that, right?
Well, none of us do perfectly.
Yeah.
But a key thing. Yeah. Hey, there was a couple other days I just wanted to hit in here.
Yeah, some of them seemed the same to me a little bit.
Thanks. I was right.
So I'm going to go have you rewrite this this week.
Well, it's all the story of Elijah, so there are kind of these unique.
Number 5, if you're exhausted, let's take 2 big steps forward, right? First, let's ask God what we need to do to renew our strength, whether that is emotional, physical. Secondly, let's make sure we know what our mission is. If we don't have a mission right now, ask God to reveal it to you and your next steps in this mission. I did like that one because I think I thought to myself, and I don't know if I read it in the whole week, so I guess I must have gotten something out of it. But it had to do with emotional and physical strength, right?
Yeah.
So enough sleep.
Yep.
All that. I mean, I do believe that if we spend time, and I know we were just talking about before we started here about guys with lust and pornography and things like that. There's nothing worse to your emotional well-being,
right.
your sleeplessness, your tiredness, your weakness. That weakens you. That separates your spirit, man, from your flesh, and you have no idea what that does to your being, right?
Right. To your whole being. That's
to your whole being.
Well said.
And I think that if we can get enough rest, enough positive things, your whole being will be better and will operate better.
Yep.
And the right food. You know, you talked about that, nourishment, exercise, things about building your body and your spiritual life, and I think that was good.
Yeah. Well, that whole day it was so Elijah. If you didn't read the week, Elijah's this guy who goes. He has this. It's one of the most amazing stories in Scripture where he goes, head to head with
850 or whatever.
850 false prophets.
Yeah.
And he wins the battle, if you will, and then. Ahab's wife threatens his life, and he runs for his life, and he's depressed, and he literally goes out into the desert and prays, God, kill me. Just kill me now. So, a guy who was like so faith-filled one day, and literally the next day, because it's the next day, he's running for his life, and he's praying, God, would just take my life. It's over, because one woman threatens him. Yeah. But my argument in all
that... What was her name again?
Jezebel.
Yeah.
Right.
You think about it, how many people are called Jezebels, right?
Yeah.
That name
it means tear down. Yeah. It's like
it's a demonic kind of name.
It is. It's the woman who comes after to destroy.
Yeah.
And anyhow, so in this situation though, he's running for his life. But
do not name your kids Jezebel, by the way.
No, don't. No. But my argument of why he gets to the place of like lay down and die is because he doesn't know his mission. He knew his mission the day before, like face off against these false prophets. After he wins, he's kind of like, oh, now what? And in the now what, I'm just exhausted. I don't know what my mission is. Fear takes over. And so I just kind of made this observation is your awareness of your mission in the midst of exhaustion is so important. It either will fuel faith or fear. And I don't know if you've ever made a bad decision when you're exhausted, but I have.
Oh, yeah. I have for sure.
Or when I've lost sight of mission. Same thing.
Yeah, and sometimes a good night's rest and just stepping away from it and refocusing, and you know what I mean? Because sometimes you can be so, it can absorb you so much that you lose sight of everything, and then sometimes you walk away and you say, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore, and you get a good night's rest, and you just have to, don't think about what, walk away. Yep. You come back and you have a fresh, clear vision of what the battle is and what my calling is, and you can change direction on it pretty quick.
Yep. Yeah. So never, if I could encourage everyone, don't make any big decisions in exhaustion or when you don't know what your mission is, like the end goal. Sometimes we don't know what our next step is. That's okay. But if you've lost sight of what am I chasing after, what is, kind of my personal mission in life?
Yeah.
Just
I got real frustrated
careful.
with, I'll tell you a story that's recent.
Yep.
I got real frustrated with the state because I felt like the state was attacking our marketing. Okay, this is going to sound like, anybody who works here, marketing department, you'll know what I'm talking about. We have to really be careful. Yeah. We didn't put a comma here. We didn't capitalize here. We offered something we shouldn't have, and they'll fine you.
Yeah.
And we send out sometimes, 30,000 pieces of mail or 150,000 pieces of whatever, and something's wrong, and they can fine you, right? And having as many stores as we've got, sometimes we become a bigger target than a guy who's got one store. He's got a problem here or there. It's not a big deal, right?
Right.
But you have 20 stores and you send out the same piece or you send out different pieces from all of them, you're always in their eye. And pretty soon they think you're a problem. And I'm constantly fighting that. But that was becoming a problem. And I finally had told Nicole, who's our paralegal, who's awesome, just love her. I said, I'm calling the head right now, And I'm going to talk to him right now. I was so aggravated, so tired, so done, so whatever,
Yeah.
And she was, Greg, don't, Greg, don't. I go, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But I was tired. I was aggravated. I had enough.
Yeah.
And I just picked up the phone and I called him and he answered.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, oh, no. And I said, you know what? I said, are you bullying me? Is that what you guys want to do, is bully me? Is that what it is? That's what I feel like. Here's what I feel. And I told him what I felt.
Yeah.
And I get all done, and he goes, okay, Greg. I go, yes. He goes, all I'm asking you to do is take care of your customers. You take care of your customers, we don't have any problems. I said, okay. I said, thanks, Michael. Hung up the phone. So then the next day, I felt bad. I got a good night's sleep. I got it off my chest. I felt bad, whatever, and then she's rolling her eyes or whatever. And the next day, I got a good night's sleep that night. Woke up again, and I go, I really shouldn't have called him.
What did I do?
What did I just do?
Yeah.
And I called him back up. And I apologized and let him know I was tired. I hadn't been feeling good, and that I didn't mean to come down on him for it. That we're trying to do the right things. We do have different marketing people and different managers making different decisions at different times. We try to look over them. And he did call back and say, I know what you want to do. I know what you're trying to do, and I understand. So thanks for the call. But I apologized for being that way. But had I just taken another day, maybe said it differently, but I could have caused myself a problem. But as it turned out, he was a man of integrity. So
Yeah. Right.
There's a $100,000 fine. Jeez.
But you're sitting there going, oh, if I could have just
she's
kept.
going, oh, Greg, would you listen to me? Don't call him right now,
Keep
please.
your mouth closed.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself.
Oh,
I'm sure we've all been there. You go to a sports game and someone's picking on your kid, or you're losing this or that. And somebody says something stupid. Next thing you know, you want to fight, and then you say dumb stuff. And what did I do? I was aggravated, tired, emotional.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
And I think the way a lot of it, though, plays out is, think about it in a home setting, in a marriage. People come home exhausted, and then all of a sudden paranoia works its way into your marriage or into your family or whatever it might be. And then fear has now captured your heart because you're just exhausted. And you didn't take some time to just go, okay, God, I got to make sure that I'm saturating my mind in all the right things so that I'm fueling.
We never do that.
Faith.
I stink at that.
Yeah, okay.
I end up saying things blasting like crazy, and then later I go, why did I say that? I didn't really mean that. No, why did you say it then? I don't know. And then I got to try to backpedal quick. And yeah.
We laugh, but we know the pain of the moment.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, so how can we stop that from happening? I just think so much of it is awareness of, like, before you walk in your door at night, almost the state of your being at that moment. Yeah. Am I exhausted? Do I feel off? Yeah. Okay, so then don't allow my exhausted state to create paranoia in my relationship or to, but I said it this way this weekend. Hey, when you're heading in to a difficult scenario that could trigger you off, is just stop and pray, stop, give some thanks, and stop and just kind of remind yourself what's the truth in this moment in terms of how I should respond. And if you just do that, and that's just straight out of Scripture that says in every situation, present your request to God with thanksgiving, etc. So,
and I think if everybody, as time goes on and everybody takes a step, it's a journey, right, with your faith. And one of the reasons I play Christian music, right, is because it's uplifting, it's edifying, it's softer, and some of it's can be a little bit livelier.
Yep.
But that I know that I'm feeding my employees and my customers things that are positive.
Yep.
And so if that atmosphere permeates, right?
That's right.
Then I know I've done the right thing for my people. And that's my responsibility. Not everybody likes it all the time, but I do think that the more you stay in the Word, you realize how God's Word never changes and it's still effective, like I just said a little while ago.
Yeah.
And so if you can keep in the Scriptures, keep in the Word, just a little bit. You don't sit there and pound on the Bible and just really, but just and really glorify God, speak positives, speak life.
Yep. I've been, for me, even personally, I think there's a whole lot of people who go, how do I meditate on the Bible, or how do I kind of let that saturate my life? I would just encourage you, like, read some Scripture. It might be the verse that's in this or something like this, but then just if you memorize one line that sticks out to you in a verse, and just let that,
Yeah.
like just rehearse that line throughout the day. I found that's one of the most impactful things to my spiritual journey, actually, and my faith walk, is I'll take one line out of a verse and I'll just go, okay, God, help me to understand what this fully means for me. That's it.
So we look at that just out of curiosity now.
Yeah.
We look at the skeptics challenge, right?
Yeah.
Write down one thing you know refreshes you when you're exhausted. Second, write down at least one thing that you think could be a part of God's mission for your life right now. So what is, you say right now, it's not saying forever, but for right now, what's one part of God's mission for your life? Being a good father, right?
Yep.
Being a good employee, being a better woman. God, whatever that mission is, lifting up my family, helping my mother, or whatever that might be.
Yep.
And right now, and writing it down, and concentrating on that every single day. That's not a big change in your life, but if you just wrote it down and put it on your refrigerator door, and just say, "That's my mission in life right now," and maybe he'll give you another one. You'll have two of them up there. That's my mission in life.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you don't do other things, but it means that's something he's got you focused on. I think that's good.
Yeah. It is good. All right. So go after it this week.
Is that it?
Yeah. Well, we've been talking for a half hour.
We have? Went by I said, man, that's going to be a tough one.
This was an easy one.
I tell you, I sure appreciate you. And I appreciate you speaking into our family, our work family here, and helping us through this, because I think if everybody really does read this and concentrates on it, I think it's helpful.
It's been, this came out of just some of my, in my opinion, it was some of my most important learnings over all my years, and it came out in this. And then the faith experiment was the one that came out after it. It was all about exercising faith, and does faith actually make an impact? But this is all identity stuff. So big stuff. Thanks.
Good. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. See y'all.